If your ads are getting clicks, leads are coming in, people are even booking calls, but you're still not getting enough clients, your ads may not be the problem. And I know that's probably not what most agencies want to tell you, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Your traffic might be working. It might just be getting sent into a business that's leaking profit at every step. This is why growth feels so confusing. On the surface, things are happening. You're getting leads. You're having conversations. People are showing interest. Maybe you're even getting a few sales, but it still feels inconsistent. So the natural reaction is, we need better ads. We need more leads. We need a new funnel. But here's what most people miss. Most attention does not automatically create more revenue. It only creates more revenue if the system behind it can turn that attention into clients. Someone can click and still not apply. Someone can apply and still not book. Someone can book and still not show up. Someone can show up and still not buy. Someone can buy and then the back end turns into chaos. So the issue is not always traffic. Sometimes the business is leaking profit between the steps. Here's the easiest way to think about it. Traffic is water. Your business is the bucket. If the bucket has holes in it, more water doesn't fix the problem. It just makes the leak more obvious and more expensive. The ads don't create the problem, they expose it. And honestly, that's great news because it means you may not need to burn everything down and start over. You may just need to find the 2 or 3 places where most of the money is leaking. And to be clear, this doesn't mean you've built a bad business. Most businesses are built in layers. First, you get clients. Then you figure out delivery. Then you patch things together as you grow. The leaks usually show up because the business has outgrown the version that got it started. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 profit leaks that can quietly hold back growth before you spend more money on traffic. But don't turn this into a giant to-do list. Just listen for 2 or 3 that feel most true for your business right now. Those are usually where the money is leaking. And stay with me until leak number 10, because that's usually the one nobody wants to admit. But it's often the reason the same growth problems keep coming back. Part 1, clarity leaks. The first 3 leaks happen before someone takes action. These are clarity leaks. This is where the right person either gets it or they move on before they ever become a real opportunity. The first leak is where your offer sounds useful, but not urgent. And this happens to a lot of good businesses. The service might be great. The expertise might be real. The client may genuinely benefit from what you do, but they still don't feel a strong reason to act now. So they read the page, they watch the video, they like the idea. They think, that sounds interesting. That could be helpful. I'll come back to this later. And then they don't, because that could help me is not the same as I need this. That's the difference. People don't usually buy because something is useful. They buy because the current problem has become too expensive, too frustrating, or too painful to keep tolerating. So if your offer isn't converting, don't only ask, is this valuable? Ask, have I made the cost of staying the same clear? If you help someone improve their sales process, the value is not just better sales calls. The real cost of doing nothing might be wasted leads, lost deals, weak follow-up, and hours spent talking to people who were never ready to buy. That feels much more urgent. So the simple fix is this. Don't just explain what you do. Show them what staying stuck is already costing them. Leak 2. Your audience is too broad to feel personal. The second leak here is a broad audience. This happens when technically you're speaking to the right type of person, but the message still feels too general. You say things like, I help business owners, I help entrepreneurs, I help coaches, I help busy professionals. And yes, that might be accurate, but it's not specific enough to make the right person feel seen. And that matters. Because when people pay closer attention, when they feel accurately described, not vaguely included, accurately described, there's a big difference. For example, coaches and consultants is broad, but this is sharper. Established coaches and consultants who already have proof, but are still relying on referrals, manual follow-up, and inconsistent lead flow. That person immediately thinks, okay, this is about me. Here's the key idea. Your audience is not just a demographic. It's a situation. It's not just who they are. It's what they're dealing with. So don't just name the person. Name the situation they're stuck in. That's what makes the messaging feel personal. Leak 3. Your message explains the service, but not the shift. A lot of businesses say things like, we offer coaching, we build funnels, we run ads, we provide strategy, we help with operations. And none of that is wrong, but it mostly tells people what you do. It doesn't always show them what changes. And buyers are not only buying the service, they're buying the shift. They want to move from one state to another, from inconsistent to predictable, from manual to systemized, from vague to clear, from scattered to structured, from founder dependent to supported by process, from chasing leads to having a system that turns attention into conversations. That's what people actually care about. The service is the vehicle. The shift is the value. So if your marketing isn't landing, the issue may not be that the service is weak. It may be that people can't clearly see the before and after. Here's a simple test. Can someone look at your message and say, right now I'm here and this helps me get there? If that shift isn't clear, people may understand what you do, but they won't feel why it matters. So lead with the shift. Then explain the service. Part 2, conversion leaks. Now let's move into conversion leaks. This is where attention either turns into qualified calls, sales, and momentum, or it turns into silence. And this is where a lot of businesses think they have a lead quality problem, when really the journey is doing too much heavy lifting in the wrong places. Leak 4, your page is acting like a brochure. The 4th leak is having a page that explains the business but doesn't guide the decision. This is very common. Page looks nice. Good branding, nice sections, few testimonials, a bit about the service, button at the bottom, nothing technically wrong with it, but doesn't move the buyer through the thought process they need before taking action. A strong landing page is not just information, it's a guided conversation. It should help the buyer understand why this problem matters, why their previous attempts may not have worked, why your approach is different, why now is the right time, why they can trust you, and why the next step feels safe. A normal website says, here's who we are. A strong landing page says, here's the problem you're dealing with, here's why it's been hard to solve, here's the better way to think about it, and here's the next step. That's why some businesses get traffic, but no action. They're not sending people into a decision journey. They're sending them into a digital brochure. So your page should not just describe the business. It should guide the buyer decision. Leak 5, your leads arrive before they believe enough. The 5th leak is one of the biggest. Your leads may not be bad. They may just arrive too early. And that is an important distinction. A lot of businesses blame lead quality way too quickly. They say the leads are bad. They're not serious. They don't get it. They don't have the money. And sometimes, yes, there may be a targeting issue, but often the lead just hasn't been educated enough before the call. They don't understand the problem deeply enough. They don't understand the cost of staying where they are. They don't trust your approach yet. They don't see why your solution is different. So they book a call with curiosity, but not conviction. And curious people are much harder to close. This is why the journey before the call matters. Your content, videos, emails, reminders, proof, and retargeting should all help the person understand the problem better before they speak to you. Not in a pushy way, in a useful way. You want them arriving on the call thinking, I understand why this matters. I understand why what I've tried before hasn't worked. I understand why this approach is different. That creates a different conversation. The sales call should not be where belief begins. The sales call should be where belief gets converted. So warm them up before the call, so the call isn't forced to do all the work. And by the way, if you're already spotting a few of these in your own business, there's a link below to request a business growth audit. We'll help you find the biggest leak in your current system so you're not guessing what to fix first. But for now, let's keep going because the next few are usually where the hidden money leaks show up. Leak number 6, your booking process has no filter. This is where people confuse more calls with more growth. But a full calendar is not the goal. A qualified calendar is the goal because an unqualified call still costs you time, energy, and opportunity. You've seen this before. Someone books a call, they don't show up. Or they show up, but clearly have no idea what you do. Or they say they're just researching. Or they ask for the price in the first 2 minutes. Or they clearly can't afford the level of support they booked in for. That's not just a sales problem, that's a filtering problem. Your booking process should do more than collect a time slot. It should create alignment. It should help the person understand what the call is for. It should filter out people who are not ready. It should remind them why they booked. It should prepare them for the conversation. You can do this with a better application, a pre-call video, stronger confirmation emails, better reminders, or sometimes a small booking fee. The tactic can vary, but the principle stays the same. Friction is not always bad. The right amount of friction protects your time and increases commitment. You don't want to make it hard for people to book, but you do want to make it harder for the wrong people to waste your calendar. Leak 7, your sales process lives in your head. The 7th leak is having a sales process that only works when the founder is at their best. This is very common in an expert-led business. The founder knows the offer. They understand the client. They can explain the value. They can handle objections. They can make the connection. But the process is mostly internal. It lives in their head. So business can't easily improve it, train it, or measure it. And when the sales depend on mood, confidence, memory, and personality, results become inconsistent. Some days the calls feel great. Some days they feel flat. Some leads get followed up properly. Others slip through the cracks. Some objections get handled well. Others throw the call off completely. That creates inconsistency. And here's the real insight. A sales process is not just a script. It's a feedback system. It tells you what your market does not yet believe. If people keep asking the same questions, your marketing probably hasn't answered them clearly enough. If people keep hesitating at the same point, your offer may not have enough certainty built into it. If people keep disappearing after the call, your follow-up may not be leading the decision. So the sales process is not separate from marketing. It's one of the best places to learn what your marketing needs to say next. Leak number 8. Your follow-up stops when interest is highest. This is weak post-call follow-up. Most businesses focus on getting the call booked. Then they focus on the call itself. But the money is often made or lost after the call. Someone has a good conversation. They're interested. They say they need to think about it. They need to check finances. They need to speak to their partner. They need a few days. And then the follow-up becomes random. Maybe a message, maybe an email, maybe nothing. And this is where good opportunities quietly die. Because interest doesn't stay warm forever. It cools very quickly. And when there's no structured follow-up, the person doesn't usually make a clearer decision. They just drift. Good follow-up should not pressure people. It should continue the conversation. It should recap the problem, clarify the next step, answer likely objections, reinforce the value, show proof, and make the decision easier. So if someone says, I need to think about it, the follow-up shouldn't just be, hey, have you thought about it? That puts the pressure on them. A better follow-up reminds them what they said they wanted to fix, what staying the same is costing them, and what the next step would look like if they wanted support. Follow-up is not chasing. Good follow-up is leadership. You're helping the person make a clear decision instead of letting the conversation fade. Part 3, scale leaks. The final leaks are scale leaks. These are the ones that make growth feel heavy, even when the business is technically working. And this is where a lot of founders quietly hit a ceiling. Not because there's no demand, but because the business isn't built to handle more demand yet. Leak number 9, your backend punishes growth. This is when more clients create more stress, more admin, more reminders, more messages, more invoices, more onboarding tasks, more delivery issues, more team questions, more things that need the founder's attention. So the business says it wants growth, but internally, growth feels dangerous because every new client adds pressure to the same fragile system. This is a leak many founders don't spot right away. They think they're avoiding growth because they're busy, but often they're avoiding growth because they know what growth will break. They know onboarding is messy. They know fulfillment relies too much on them. They know the team needs clearer processes. They know the client experience is still too manual. They know things are already slipping. So more clients doesn't feel exciting. It feels heavy. It feels like, if this works too well, I'm going to drown. And that's a horrible position to be in because part of you wants more clients, but another part of you knows the business may not handle them well. Sometimes the business is not afraid of growth. It's afraid of what growth will break. That's why back-end systems matter. Not because systems are exciting, but because systems make growth feel safe. You don't build systems just to feel organized. You build systems so the business can handle more opportunity without creating more chaos. Leak number 10, the founder is still the system. Now this is a big one. The founder is still the system. The founder remembers the leads. The founder follows up. The founder closes. The founder delivers. The founder checks quality. The founder solves every weird problem. The founder keeps the client happy. The founder holds the whole thing together. And look, in the beginning, that's normal. It's often necessary. You're close to the client. You're figuring things out. You're building proof. You're learning what works. But eventually, what helped you start becomes a thing that holds you back. Because if every important piece of the business depends on the founder, then the business can't scale beyond the founder's capacity. And this is where it gets frustrating. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because the business is still using you as the operating system. You become the CRM, the follow-up system, the quality control, the client success manager, the emergency department, and the growth agent. At some point, that breaks. Not because you're not capable, but because one person cannot be the whole machine forever. The goal is not to remove the founder completely. That's not realistic. And it's probably not even desirable. The goal is to stop making the founder responsible for every moving piece. The founder should be focused on the highest value work: vision, relationships, strategy, content, sales leadership, quality control, not chasing tasks that could be handled by a process, a template, a team member, or an automation. If the founder is the system, the business has a ceiling. If the system supports the founder, the business has room to grow. And that's a very different business to run. Now, if you recognize yourself in a few of these, that doesn't mean your business is broken. It probably means the business has outgrown the way it was originally built. And that's normal. Most businesses are built in survival mode first. You get clients however you can. You deliver manually, you follow up manually, you sell from memory, you fix things as they break. You make it work because you have to. That's how many businesses start. But it's not how they scale. At some point, the next stage of growth is not about working harder. It's about adding more structure. Not complicated structure, not corporate nonsense, just the right systems in the right places so the business can turn attention into revenue without everything depending on you. And that should feel hopeful because you may not need a completely new business. You may not need to become a better content creator. You may not need to spend more hours posting. You may not even need to spend more on ads right away. You may just need to fix the places where the business is already leaking the attention, interest, and opportunities you're creating. That's a much easier problem to solve. And this is why inside Processes for Profits, we don't usually start by asking, how do we get more traffic? We start by asking, is the business ready to turn more attention into clients? Because those are two very different questions. More traffic is useful when a structure behind it is strong. But if the structure is weak, more traffic just creates more noise. So before you spend more on traffic, ask, where are my people actually dropping off? Is it the offer, the page, the pre-call journey, the sales process, the follow-up, or the backend? And if you want to help finding the biggest leak, you can request a business growth audit below. We'll look at your current system and show you what's likely costing you the most momentum right now. And if it makes sense for us to help you fix it or build that system, we can talk about that too. Either way, you'll stop guessing.